Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite winter books. These are all going to be books that take place during the winter time, either taking place over the Christmas holiday seasons, or they're just books that the setting has snow in it. So I have a total of 5 wintry books that I'm going to be recommending, and I'm also going to be doing a separate video that should be coming out within the next couple of days of my favorite winter romance books, but these are going to be the non-romance recommendations. That's not true. There's actually a couple of these could be considered romancy, but let's just get into the recommendations. The first one is going to be Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This was one of my favorite books of last year. It is an adult fantasy that takes place entirely during the winter. The entire book is covered in snow, and this follows 3 women who get caught up in the middle of this old feud and war between 2 very powerful immortal beings, one of them being a fire demon and the other one is the Stark King, who is basically like a winter fae. And one of the main characters actually gets taken to the winter fae realm, and she's forced to be prisoner almost in this ice palace. So part of the book takes place almost entirely in an ice palace, which is so cool. But I loved this book so much. Like I said, it's one of my favorites, and it is probably one of the most winter aesthetic books I've ever read, and I definitely recommend it if you're looking for something that is fantasy but also takes place during the winter. Another book that has a very strong winter aesthetic is Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. This is a YA fantasy that, like Spinning Silver, takes place entirely in a snowy setting. This follows a young woman who was being protected at a monastery because she has the ability to communicate with the gods, and they grant her divine powers. Her kingdom's enemies are after her because there are 2 separate realms. One of them is very much rooted in the old gods, and the other one are almost like blood mages, and they don't believe in the gods, so they are after the main character since she has this divine ability. And she ends up escaping while they're trying to come kill her, basically, and she ends up teaming up with a rogue blood mage who had escaped his kingdom and is on the run. I didn't love this one as much as Spinning Silver, but I still really enjoyed it, and the winter aesthetic is so strong in this, and I am so excited for the sequel, Ruthless Gods. It comes out, I think, in March or April, but I'm definitely excited for it. The next one is another book that was one of my favorites of last year, and that is The Book of the Unnamed Midwife by Meg Ellison. This is a post-apocalyptic book that takes place after the population has been almost entirely wiped out. There was a disease that went around that mostly was impacting women and children and was impairing women's ability to get pregnant and safely give birth. And so the population is now almost entirely gone, but more so than that, the population of women and children is like nothing. There's hardly any women left. And so the world has become extremely dangerous for the remaining women. So the main character disguises herself as a guy to protect herself, and she travels around the country giving birth control shots to any of the women that she finds in order to protect them from potentially getting pregnant and dying in labor. This book is pretty dark, but it is such just like a gripping read. I could never put it down, and it largely takes place over the winter time. There's a huge blizzard that happens, and it's really cool because the book is basically the main character's journal, and you never find out her name or really a lot about her. That's why it's called The Book of the Unnamed Midwife, and her journal is actually something that is discovered later on, and it's kind of taught as like an almost history book to people in the future. It's a really interesting read, and I really need to continue with this series. So those 3 books were all kind of like heavier, darker books. This next one is very light, very fluffy. It actually doesn't take place in a snowy setting, but it does take place in the winter during Christmas, and that is 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston, and this takes place in Louisiana, so obviously like not snowy, but it is about the main character who ends up spending Christmas with her very large extended family. She just was dumped by her boyfriend, and so she kind of wants to like escape her town and just get away. So she goes and visits her family, and they all come up with the crazy idea to set her up on blind dates to help her get over her ex, and they kind of turn it into like a competition, and whoever like picks the best date wins something. And so she has to go on these 10 blind dates. She doesn't know who they're gonna be with or what the date is going to be. And this was just such a cute rom-com type of romance. It definitely had the same type of feel as To All the Boys I Loved Before, but I definitely enjoyed this one more. I liked the main character better, and I liked the romance better. And it's actually being made into a Netflix movie, which I'm so excited for. I can't wait to see who they cast as all the different dates. But aside from just like there being a good romance, this book was a lot about like family and connecting to your family. I really related to it. I related to the main character because she lives in a different town than her entire family, so she kind of feels like an outsider, and I definitely share those type of feelings, and a lot of that was things that she was putting onto herself. And there was also a strong emphasis on friendship, specifically with her two cousins who are in similar age to her. I just really enjoyed this. I thought it was great. I cannot wait to see how it translates into a movie. If you're looking for a cute book to give you like all the Christmas feels, this is definitely the one to do it. So the last book on this list, I debated whether or not I was gonna put it on the romance winter books, but I decided to put it on this one because I feel like this is one of those books that, yes, it is a romance, but there's also a lot of plot outside of the romance, which to me makes it a little bit more than romance, you know? And that is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. This takes place in Alaska, and it is about a girl who has been estranged from her father her whole life. When she was a little kid, her mother basically took her and moved away from Alaska, and she hasn't really had a lot of communication with her father since then. And she finds out that he is really sick and about to die, so she goes to visit him in Alaska. And while she's there, she meets her father's neighbor, who is kind of this like lumberjack, macho type of dude, and it's not really enemies to lovers, but they definitely do not like each other at first because they're so different. The main character is kind of like an Instagram influencer. Like, she has a lifestyle blog, and she, you know, like takes lifestyle photos on Instagram, and then he's obviously like this wilderness guy. So they don't hit it off, and they have a romance that I really, really love. But I think the heart and soul of this book is the relationship between the main character and her father, which is why I'm not putting it on my romance list. But like I said, it does take place in Alaska, and there might even be a snowed-in trope that I really loved. And there's gonna be a sequel to this book that comes out sometime in early 2020, I think, that I'm so excited for. So those are all of my winter book recommendations. Definitely stay tuned for my winter romance recommendations that will be coming out in the next couple of days. And let me know in the comments, what are some of your favorite winter books, or also what books do you like to read during the winter? I tend to go to like the two extremes. I either like to read dark, heavier books, or I like to read the lightest, fluffiest, cutest books I can find. There's really no middle ground when it comes to what I like to read during the winter. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Ooh. Okay, this is cute! I literally just pulled out my winter coat so I could take this thumbnail, and you guys, I'm so hot. It is 80 degrees outside, but I'm doing this for the aesthetic. Y'all better appreciate.